Alrighty, friends, I know that we have seen this anchor chart before, but we are going to review it really quickly before we use it to practice, in order to practice and find our gist. So we are going to annotate today using these think marks. We know we use the heart to show a part we really liked. We use the LOL to show something that was funny or made us laugh. We're going to use the V today. We remember that the V is for a new word. And if it's a new word, we need to make sure we go back and find the meaning. We use the circle only for illustrations. Circles should not be used in the text. We use the circles in the illustration when we find something that helps us learn about the topic. We use the eyeball to when we visualize. When we can make a picture in our head with the words, we visualize with the eyeball. Now we underline words that we already know about the topic. So V is for new words and underlining is for words that we already know about the topic. We use a P to make a prediction or to make a guess about what's going to happen next in the story. We use a question mark to write a wondering or question. And we use an exclamation mark to show a surprising part in the story. Now, these last three in yellow are important because if we make a prediction, if we ask a question, or if we find a surprising part, we want to make a note or write down what that was in the margin or in this blank part of the page. We use those think marks to help us annotate, and we annotate to find the gist. There's three important steps for gisting. We want to think about who or what is it mostly about. That's going to be the topic. So when you're thinking about, oh gosh, I don't remember what the topic is, that's okay. When we're gisting, the topic is going to be who or what it's mostly about. Then you are going to think about what are the most important things that happened in the text. What are the most important things that if I was going to tell this again to someone, what could I not leave out? So who or what was it about? What are the most important things? And then we want to make sure that we have a holistic view. That's kind of a funny word, but if we think about whole is when you have everything, right? The whole part. Just like in math, when you're trying to find the whole, you're trying to find the whole part with everything together. That's the same in reading. When we talk about finding the holistic view, we don't want to get stuck in the details. We want to zoom out and we want to think about what part of the text did I just read? Am I gisting for just a little bit or am I gisting for all of it? We want to make sure that we gist for all of it or we gist for the whole. So keep that in mind while we practice on the next couple pages. Here is an example of how these think marks that we just talked about can help us find the gist that we see in the green box. So if I read this page, I'm going to read this page quickly, and then I'm going to talk about why these think marks help me annotate. And you'll notice that there's still a lot of think marks in this box that I didn't use. When you annotate, you do not need to use all of the think marks. You only want to use the think marks that help you understand the page better. That's why when Miss Papa annotates, I never use all of them. I have to think which of these help me understand the page better. So now let's read the page and talk about how these annotations helped us understand. When Marian sang, it was often with her eyes closed, as if finding the music within. Audiences heard not only words, but feelings too. Spirited, worship, tender affection, and nothing short of joy. She was chosen for the celebrated People's Chorus, 100 voices from all the Black church choirs in Philadelphia. She was one of the youngest members and had to stand on a chair so those in the back could see the pride of South Philadelphia. Her father was proud too, but protective. He didn't want anyone taking advantage of his child. Father's love made Marian feel important. When he died after an injury at the reading terminal where he sold ice, tragedy filled Marian's heart and sometimes her songs. And then here down below we have the song. I'm not going to sing it again this time, but you guys can see those slanted words. So now let's talk about the think marks. The first think mark that we have is this little eyeball. The eyeball tells me that I made a picture in my brain with the words. So some of the words that I see here that help me to visualize are that the audience not only heard her words, but feelings. They felt spirited worship because she was singing at church, and singing was part of the way that they worshiped. They felt tender affection, which means that they felt love from her singing and nothing short of joy or happiness. So worship from being at church, love, and happiness. I can picture listening to a song or listening to someone feel or sing and feeling love and feeling happiness. So that is why I used this think mark to show that I visualized. I visualized those highlighted words while I was reading. Another think mark I used was the heart, and I put it next to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a city. It is where Marian is from. And she was the pride of her city, which means that the city was very proud of her. They felt good about what a great singer she was. They were happy that somebody so talented was from their community because that was something that they could be proud of or feel happy for her about. So I have a heart here because I know that all of Philadelphia loves Marian. And I know where Philadelphia is. I have a connection with the text because, fun fact, Miss Papa's very best friend is from Philadelphia. She's also a teacher and she lives in Philadelphia. So those are two reasons why I really like this part in the page. I know the city of Philadelphia, and I know that Philadelphia was proud of Marian. They had a lot of love for her, which is a great opportunity to use this think mark to show that. And last but not least, I have my question mark. And I put the question mark next to these words, which are the lyrics of a song. And I put here in the margin. We have lots of room on the page next to the words. That's called the margin. And my question is, why are these words slanted? The author chooses to italicize these words. That's what we say when words are slanted. Say it with me. Ready? Italicized. Good job. The words are italicized to show the reader that this is a song, which makes sense if I look at the illustration and see Marian singing in the choir, which is also why I used my circle to circle the illustration. I circled Marian singing, and I know that it's her because she was singing with her eyes closed, just like it says in the text. So if I think about what I visualized, what people felt when Marian was singing, if I think about how she was the pride of Philadelphia, and I think about the song that she sang after her father passed away, I could take all of that and think about, what is this page mostly about? If we think about our who or what, it's about Marian and it's about her father. The most important things that we learn about Marian and her father are that Marian is a singer and Marian's father passes away. Now, if I think about the whole text, if I zoom out and think about this whole page, I know that while Marian was a really good singer and that her father was proud of her, she was very sad when he passed away. And this was something that was very hard for Marian and her family. So I want to think about how can I explain all of that in just one sentence? And that brings me to the gist. If we think about what this page was about and how we annotated, we can summarize with the gist in one sentence and explain that this page is mostly about how Marian's singing talents made her father proud and she missed him when he passed away. Does that tell me everything about this page? Yes. It tells me about how her father felt, it tells me about what Marian was doing, and it tells me about what happened after he passed away. And those are some of the most important things on this page. So now let's look at one more example to see how think marks help us to annotate and how annotating helps us to gist. So here we have another page. Again, we see lots of think marks, but Miss Papa is not using all of them. We only use the ones that help us understand the text. So first, we need to read the page. Listen while I read and think, why did Miss Papa use those think marks? Since Father's death, Marian worked at odd jobs and sang in concert programs in order to help support her family. It wasn't until 1915, when Marian was 18, that she finally went to a music school and patiently waited in line for an application. But the girl behind the counter helped everyone except Marion. Was she invisible? Finally, the girl said, "We don't take colored." Her voice sounded like a steel door clanking shut. Okay, so we have lots of things happening on this page. The first think mark that you guys see me using is the V for vocabulary. And part of the reason I use the V for vocabulary is because I see the author says Marion works at odd jobs. So I've heard the word odd before, and I know that in math we use that word, but this isn't math, it's reading. So why do we see that word? Odd is a homograph, and if we remember from second grade, a homograph is a word that is spelled the same, but that has many different meanings. So while the word odd can be a math word, it can also mean strange or unusual. So now if I plug in that meaning into the sentence, Marion worked at strange or unusual jobs, that helps me understand what kind of job she had. So maybe she was babysitting, or maybe she was helping other people at church, or maybe she was helping her mom make dinner. These would be strange or unusual jobs because they're not the kind of jobs where you go in and get a paycheck. That's why the author uses the word odd jobs, because these jobs are unusual. She has these odd jobs to help support her family. It's very important that we understand that Marion was supporting her family with the money she made from the odd job. She started working because, as we know, her father passed away. And because her father passed away, that made it harder for them to have money because he wasn't going to work. So Marion supported her family, and I annotated this with an exclamation mark. It's surprising that somebody so young would have to support their family. I made a note about this in the margin or the space between the words, and I said that she supports her family just like my mom and dad. So when I was that young, my mom and dad were the ones who supported my family. My mom and dad were the ones who had jobs and brought money home to support us. So it's surprising that Marion, when she's just a little kid, is having to do that, because we usually think of that as something that your mom or dad does. The next think mark that we have is another exclamation mark at the very end of the page after the girl tells Marion she's not going to get an application because she is colored. So that was not a nice thing for the girl to say, and it was very unexpected. It was surprising, which is why we use this think mark. I made a note in the margin as to why this was surprising. It's surprising that Marion couldn't get a music application. Is the first time that she experiences a conflict. It's the first time that she experiences a problem, which we already know is discrimination, or the unfair treatment toward other people based on their differences. So it's not fair, the treatment that Marion is getting just because of the color of her skin. It's not fair that she's not being allowed to apply to music school just because she's Black. And we already know that she's a wonderful singer, and that's what it should be about. But unfortunately, because of Jim Crow laws and because of segregation, Marion didn't have that same opportunity. So this is a problem for her. She has to think of another way to go to school and to reach her dream. So that's very surprising, which is why I annotated that on the page. Now, if we think about how Marion was working at anything she could to help support her family, and how she wasn't allowed to go to music school, we know that from the think marks of this page, we want to think, who or what is this mostly about? This is mostly about Marion. It talks about her family, and it talks about the girl at the music school, but the name that I see over and over and the character that I'm learning about on this page is Marion. So my who or what for the gist is Marion. The most important things are that she's experiencing discrimination. Whether it's to go to music school or to help her family, she does not have the same opportunity to get a job because of Jim Crow. So the most important things I learned about Marion is that she is experiencing discrimination, whether she's trying to be a singer or help her family. So if I zoom out and think about what the whole text is about, thinking about my who or what, thinking about the important events with my think marks, I can say that the gist, or what this page is about, is how Marion experiences discrimination while trying to get a job. So when you guys get a chance to practice, I want you guys to remember, we use think marks to help us annotate, but we don't need to annotate using all of them. We just want to use the ones that help us understand the text so that we can gist, so that we can think about what is this page mostly about. Now let's get ready to learn a new skill called making inferences. We are going to learn all about how making inferences is another tool to help us understand the text better.